I saved a man's life. The next day, the whole country called me a gold digger. Imani sat still, unblinking. Bright interview lights burned in front of her. The host looked up, voice calm. If you could go back to that night, would you open the door again? No answer. Only the sound of rain. Cut. Through the fogged window, a man banged on the glass. Soaked. Trembling hands, eyes desperate. Imani stood inside, her hand on the latch, her breath shallow. Wind howled through the cracks. 1 second of hesitation. Then, she opened the door. Would you? If one act of kindness could destroy your entire life, would you still open the door? Comment, I would open the door if you still believe in kindness. And don't forget to subscribe to hear the rest of Imani's story. Willow Hill was a quiet town. No billboards, no crowded supermarkets, just old wooden houses, calm mornings, and the smell of cinnamon waffles. At the end of Main Street stood a tiny bookshop called Page and Pour. Faded wooden sign, calligraphy on the glass. Inside, wooden tables, warm yellow lights, worn shelves, and a woman brewing tea. Imani Rivers, brown skin, graceful frame, hair in a neat bun, eyes that smiled often, voice that rarely did. She wasn't famous, had few friends, but every morning she opened on time, played soft jazz, and placed every book by hand like it was sacred. Page and Pour wasn't crowded, but everyone who came back. There was something here that made people feel safe, and that was her life until the night of the storm. Page and Pour had no investors, no backers, no seed funding. Imani had tried. 3 loan applications, 3 rejections. Reason: insufficient risk management experience. Her credit score was nearly perfect. Her business plan, meticulous. But across the table, they'd frown, glance at the papers, then at her, and shake their heads. The last time, the banker leaned in and whispered, maybe consider a co-owner, someone more credible. She understood. It wasn't the numbers they doubted. It was her skin, her being a woman, alone, no collateral. Imani smiled, folded the file, and walked away. She never asked again. Page and Pour was built from savings, a few community grants, and countless hours of her grinding beans, wrapping books, and hauling old chairs on her bicycle. Imani shelved the last book. Outside, wind picked up. Rain began lashing the glass. She turned off the counter light, wrapped her scarf. Then, bang, bang, bang. A frantic knock. Urgent. Repeated. Imani froze. The rain drowned most sounds, but not this. Someone was panicking. She approached, peeked through the curtain. A man stood there, drenched. Streetlight flickering behind him. His face pale, arms clutching his chest, eyes locked on hers. His voice cracked through the glass. Please, I just need somewhere to hide. Just for a bit. Imani gripped the doorknob tighter. Her heart raced. Was it fear or instinct? Rain hit harder, and the man didn't move. No umbrella. No backing away. The door opened. Cold air rushed in. The man stepped inside quickly, wet shoes soaking the wood floor. Imani shut the door. Kept her distance. He panted, brushed wet hair from his forehead. Brown hair, sharp nose, familiar face. She blinked. Had she seen him on a movie poster, a magazine cover? He looked up, and the truth hit. Chase Langston, movie star, Cannes red carpet, recently accused of charity fraud and disappeared. Imani stepped back. You're... Chase didn't answer. He slumped into a chair by the door, his voice low, worn. I can't go back to the hotel. I'm being followed. The café went still, too still. Next morning, Imani brewed coffee like usual. The storm had passed. The air was soft. Her phone buzzed. A message from Tasha. Have you checked the internet? Imani opened her phone. Twitter lit up. The first photo, her. Shot through her window. Blurry angle, but clearly her. Next to it, a headline in bold. Langston's Mystery Woman, New Love or Calculated Setup. Underneath, hashtags, hashtag Gold Digger, #Chasegate, Black Cinderella. She scrolled. Comments poured in. She knew exactly what she was doing. Fangirl climbs into bed with idol. Hollywood's got a new trick. Imani stood frozen, coffee cup in hand, staring at her own name, now tied to a scandal. Messages flooded in, unknown numbers, strange emails, comments all over the page and poor fan page. Some joked, half smirking, "You selling books or selling something else?" Tabloids screamed, "The black woman in the rain who just shifted Langston's career." Imani tried to stay silent, but the storm didn't wait. Under every post, new words appeared. Classic black girl move. They always ride scandal to the top. Don't be shocked when she sells a book about their love. She didn't respond, didn't delete, didn't fight back. Just sat there, page open, heart closing. She knew this wouldn't fade, not now, not when her name had become a target. Phone rang. Tasha's name. Imani answered, but before she could speak. "You're on TV, midday news." Imani held her breath. Tasha continued. "They're saying you knew each other, that you planned it." Imani turned on the TV. The anchor smiled faintly, eyes sly. "Chase Langston wasn't there by chance. Sources say the woman once appeared near his set." A grainy photo appeared, someone resembling Imani in a crowd of fans. The anchor added, "Coincidence? Or something planned?" Imani turned it off. No need to hear more. Tasha fell quiet, then sighed. "They're rewriting your story." Imani said nothing, but she knew, and that was scarier than any accusation. One article shared over 50,000 times. A zoomed-in photo of Imani opening the door for Chase, captioned, "Black women know how to climb, don't they?" Imani read every word. Silent. Scrolled down. Another comment. "Every time Hollywood falls, there's a black woman smiling in the background. No scandal's complete without one." Her hand trembled. Vision blurred. It felt like every eye was an accusation. She locked her Instagram, deleted posts from the shop's page, logged out of Twitter, then sank to the floor in the silence of her home. Imani didn't know when the tears came, only that for the first time in years she wanted to disappear, to erase her name from the world. A new headline hit the front page, a photo from Imani's college days. She stood in a protest crowd, fist raised high. Banner clear, "Justice, not silence." Below it, in bold, "Radical past?" The article claimed, "She once led a student protest at Monroe University. Is this who she truly is?" Imani stared at the screen. She remembered that day. Not radical. Just a student speaking up for a classmate mistreated because of race. But now, twisted. An act of justice turned into suspicion. She quietly closed the laptop. Have you ever seen a good person dragged through the mud, just for standing up? Comment, "I've seen it, if you've witnessed truth being distorted because it made others uncomfortable." Or, "That was me," if your past was ever used to silence you. The email came in the morning. Subject, Funding Reevaluation for Reading Days Project. Imani read it 3 times. The last line was crystal clear. "We are suspending our partnership due to concerns about public backlash." Reading Days was the program she had built over the past 2 years. Free books delivered to public schools and underserved neighborhoods. With no more sponsorship, everything had to be postponed. The books were already printed, the events scheduled. But no one wanted their name beside hers anymore. That same day, a conservative group posted an open call. "Boycott, page, and pour. We don't support chaos disguised as culture." Comments beneath labeled her a cultural threat, a poster child for woke extremism. Imani sat still. In just a few days, a bookshop had become a battlefield, a woman, a mission, a storm of judgment, a late-night talk show. The host leaned in, smiling slightly at the guest. You were classmates with Amani Rivers, right? The blonde woman nodded. Familiar face. Emily. Group project partner senior year. Once crashed at Amani's place for a week when she lost her dorm. Emily adjusted her blazer, exhaled like weighing her words. Yes, I used to really admire her. A beat. But now, I'm not so sure. I don't know if she's still the person I once trusted. The host nodded slowly. The audience stayed quiet. The screen flashed a photo, two young women under campus trees, smiling. Imani watched the replay on her phone. She didn't feel anger, just a coldness in her chest. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those who once called you a friend. That morning, a neighbor called, their voice shaky, urgent. Imani, you need to get to the shop, now. She rushed to page and pour. The front window, shattered. Red paint splattered across the brick wall. A noose painted crudely. Underneath, a message, Know your place. The morning breeze carried the sharp scent of fresh paint. People on the sidewalk stopped. Some took pictures. Imani stood still before the vandalized door. No screaming, no tears, just silence. Like someone had spit directly on the name she spent years building. A bookstore, a black woman, and a message, loud and clear, that someone wanted her erased. Chase stood in the underground parking lot gripping his phone. Victor arrived, gray suit, no tie, the usual crooked smirk. You're blowing this up, Chase. No, I'm telling the truth. Victor moved closer, close enough that Chase could smell smoke and cheap cologne. The truth? Victor gave a dry laugh. You think you get to speak your truth? After all these years I kept your mess under wraps? Chase clenched his fist, eyes locked on him. Don't touch her. Victor squinted, voice darkening. If you open your mouth, that girl's done. I swear it. Chase stepped back, not out of fear, but because this time, Victor wasn't bluffing. A meeting was arranged at a downtown café. A studio lawyer sat across from Imani. Crisp suit, stone face, a slim folder on the table. He tapped the cover with one finger. Settlement agreement. $500,000. No lawsuits, no interviews, no mention of Chase Langston. Imani looked down. Her name printed clearly. A blank space for her signature. This is your chance to walk away quietly, he added flatly. If not, you know how relentless the media can be. $500,000 for silence, to erase her name from the narrative. Imani said nothing. She reached out, touched the folder. The only thing she could hear clearly was her own heartbeat. Imani kept staring at the document. A long silence filled the air. The lawyer fidgeted, fingers tapping on his glass. You should consider it. Not everyone gets an offer like this. Imani nodded faintly, then picked up the folder, folded it in half, then again. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. She tore it. The sound of paper ripping echoed in the stillness. Fragments fell to the table, to the floor, like something that had died long ago. I don't sell my story, and no one buys the truth. She stood, smooth, final, didn't look back. Outside, the midday sun hit her face. Imani walked forward, unblinking, unafraid. For the first time in days, she could finally breathe. The phone shrieked in the middle of the night. A neighbor. Panicked. Imani! The store! It's on fire! She ran out barefoot, jacket half-zipped. The street was empty, except for the glow of flames at the end of the block. The blaze roared. The page and pour sign tilted, half-burned. Glass shattered. Smoke thick in the air. Imani screamed, calling out each corner of the shop like calling for family. She rushed forward, but firefighters stopped her. You can't go in! It's too dangerous! She fought to break free. Tears poured, mingling with smoke. The books she'd wrapped by hand. The chairs she biked home one by one. All burning, page by page. And in the middle of the night, Imani collapsed on the sidewalk, crying into her hands like it was the first time she'd lost her home. Imani sat in a rented room. No books, no counter, no sign, just bits of ash still stuck to her shoes. She leaned against the wall, eyes dry after too many sleepless nights, no more tears. Sometimes emptiness weighs more than grief. Chase walked in. He didn't speak, just sat beside her. Silence. Then, gently, he took her hand. His palm was warm. Hers was ice. "I've lost everything." He squeezed tighter. "No, you still have yourself. They can burn your shop, your books, but they can't steal your heart." Imani closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she let someone hold her together, even if just for a moment. The old cabin sat deep in the outskirts of town. No cell signal, no noise, only pine trees, and the hush of wind through the leaves. Imani sat on the porch, cradling a cup of cold tea. Chase beside her, silent, not trying to fix anything. After a long pause, she leaned her head on his shoulder. No words, no warning. Chase tensed, then slowly relaxed. They sat still, under the silent moon. Imani whispered like admitting a secret. "I'm tired." Not the body kind, the soul kind. Tired of fighting, proving, defending, explaining, non-stop. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean on someone, not because she needed help, but because she needed to breathe. The car door opened. A woman stepped out, sharp posture, high ponytail, eyes like blades. Alicia, Victor's former assistant, vanished from the industry after an unexplained scandal. Imani and Chase stood across from her in a small room. Alicia didn't waste time. "I have something." She placed a USB drive on the table. Audio recording. The night Chase was threatened, and Victor admitting he laundered charity funds through a shell company. Chase froze. Imani clenched her fists. Alicia met their eyes. No apology, no excuses. "I stayed silent for too long. He thought no one would dare reopen the case, but I can't let one more innocent person be destroyed because I kept quiet." Heavy pause. And, for the first time, a light broke through from a place no one expected. Inside the tiny kitchen, silence held the room, like even the air was waiting for a decision. Imani placed the USB on the table, looked at Chase. "If we don't speak, they'll write the rest for us." Chase nodded. "No more hiding." They contacted an independent news outlet. One rule, it had to be live. No edits, no cuts, no spin. Imani looked in the mirror, removed her scarf, took a deep breath. For the first time since it all began, she didn't avoid the camera. "We tell it all, from the start, no more, no less." Outside, the clouds began to part. Another storm was coming, but this time they'd face it with their own voices. What about you? If the world turned on you, would you still pick up the mic? Comment, "I will speak up if you believe the truth is worth the price." 1 hour before the broadcast, an anonymous email hit every journalist's inbox. Subject line, "The real Imani and Chase. Exclusive unseen footage." Attached, a 48-second video. Grainy, dimly lit, 2 blurred figures on a bed. Intimate, obscured, angle carefully chosen to hide faces. Beneath the video, a line, "What story will they tell this time?" Imani received the link through a hidden number. She opened it, watched the entire thing. Her lips turned pale, but her eyes stayed steady. Chase entered, saw her face. He understood immediately. "Victor?" She nodded. No tears, no shaking. "The final blow is always the dirtiest, but I'm still going on air." She deleted the clip. "This time, he won't silence me." Alicia pulled Imani and Chase into a back room right after they saw the fake footage. She opened her laptop, clicked on a file labeled KAM-10 Backdoor Move. Footage rolled. A parking lot behind the studio headquarters. A man in a hoodie accepted a thick envelope from Victor's assistant. No clear audio, but the short exchange was audible. Just make sure the shop's gone. No one traces it to you. The fire will take care of the rest. Alicia's voice broke as she said, "This is the original copy. It's proof Victor paid someone to burn down Page and Poor." Imani froze. No words. Just gripped Chase's hand tighter, her heart pounding like someone knocking on her ribs. She didn't lose the store to chance. Someone lit that match. Victor. And now? The truth had no more shadows to hide in. A loud knock slammed against the door. Not a polite knock, a command. Imani looked to Chase. He checked the window. "It's him. Victor." She stepped back. Her heartbeat surged. Victor stood outside, one hand buried in his coat pocket. He knocked again, twice, then spoke, cold, controlled. "Come out. End this now, or I erase everything." The door flew open. Victor entered, holding a gun. No yelling, no rage, just blank eyes, like a man ready to end it all. "You think your truth is worth more than my money? I built an empire. If it falls, I'll bring you both down with it." Chase stepped in front of Imani. Cold wind slipped through the half-open door. In that moment, no one knew where the bullet would land. Only that silence was pulling the trigger. Victor stepped forward, finger on the trigger. The entire room held its breath. Then, from behind the side door, Alicia's voice rang out, "Smile, Victor, you're live." He flinched, turned sharply. Alicia held up her phone. The screen flashed live. Comments scrolled in real time. "OMG, he's armed! Call the cops!" Victor's face went pale. His hand loosened. The gun slipped from his fingers. "Turn it off! What do you think you're doing?" Sirens howled in the distance. A civil security team kicked the door open. No warning. Victor was pinned to the ground. Face down, hands cuffed. Chase pulled Imani into his arms. She was still processing it. It hadn't ended with violence, not with power, but with one fake livestream, enough to bring down a man who thought he'd never fall. The camera switched on. Imani sat across from the host. No graphics, no edits, just truth. The host asked gently, "Imani, if you could go back to the beginning, would you do anything differently?" She looked directly into the lens. No smile, no fear, just a pause, then a voice steady and low. "I'd still open the door that night," a beat. "I don't need pity. I don't need to be saved." She took a breath, hands clasped. "All I want is justice, for everything that was twisted, smeared, and silenced." The screen split. On one side, Imani's face, on the other the bookstore, burning, its sign melting in flames. Her voice rose. "I speak not just for me, but for everyone who was ever told to shut up." By morning, Twitter was no longer a battlefield of smear campaigns. The top trends told a new story. Hashtag justice for Imani. Shash stand with truth. Shash Page. In Poor Lives, thousands shared her interview. Clips of Imani saying, "I don't need saving. I need justice," overlaid on footage of flames, went viral. People began deleting old posts, apologizing, rewriting the narrative. Even those who once called her a gold digger now sent messages of support. One young person tweeted, "I stayed quiet when my friend faced racism. Not anymore. Thank you, Imani." A community looked inward, not because Imani was a hero, but because she refused to stay silent. And sometimes, that's enough to relight the fire of justice in others. 6 months later, a new sign stood on the corner of the old block. White letters on weathered wood, Page and Poor. Chapter 2, no digital screens. Just a small awning, shelves of books outside, and the faint scent of coffee drifting through the air. It was rebuilt from over 20,000 small donations. Every cent from people who heard the story. Most had never been to the shop, but they believed in what it stood for. Imani stood at the door. No fancy clothes, no slogans, just an old apron, a cloth in her hand. A little girl stepped inside and looked up. "Are you the lady whose books got burned?" Imani smiled. "I'm the lady writing the next chapter." The story wasn't over. It had just begun, and she was the one telling it. Morning at Page and Poor, Chapter 2. Sunlight streamed through the new window, pouring gold across the counter. Chase stood behind the espresso machine, fumbling with the milk steamer. "How many shots in a latte again?" "One, and you just ruined all three." Imani laughed. He shrugged. "I'm learning to slow down." They both laughed, not the kind to hide pain, but the kind that comes from peace. Customers trickled in. No one asked Chase for a photo. They ordered coffee, read books, and left the two of them to just be. No spotlights, no flash, just espresso, turning pages, and glances that said everything without a word. A small town, a quiet café, and two people learning to breathe again, together. Imani sat alone in the corner of the café. Late afternoon sun tilted across the open journal in front of her. She stopped writing, looked out at the stillness beyond the glass. "I'm not a victim." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. "I'm just someone who chose not to stay silent." No one asked, but she kept going. "When we don't tell our stories, someone else tells them for us, in their voice, for their agenda." A quiet pause. She looked straight ahead, as if speaking to you. "And you? Will you stay silent, or tell your story?" If you've ever been misunderstood, leave a single dot in the comments. Share this video if you believe the truth deserves to be heard. Subscribe to join us as we tell the stories no one dares to speak.